Good afternoon, Patriots, and welcome to the 54th audio file in the audiocast series known as the Q News Patriot. I'm the Q News Patriot. My name is SGAnon. I'm coming to you this time a little bit more rapidly than normal. I usually like to allow at least a few days progression of events to sort of take shape in the narrative. Helps me to research the lay of the land, get a more, we'll call it maybe a better satellite view of the topographical landscape as it pertains to the information battlefield, the digital space, everything that's happening in the world. However, I think we've seen an acceleration of events, most notably today with the release of some material from 45 regarding going after Big Pharma, Agenda 47, different news headlines that are becoming more and more prominent. I think that we are in a critical stage, and I wanted to come to you with the research that I had found just over these last, really just 24 to 36 hours. So that being said, we're not going to waste a whole lot of time. I will have to go and get my little one here pretty soon, but again, this is important. So first off, let's go ahead and open with the elephant in the room. Let's discuss the bear that's at the end of the campsite. There are large-scale false flag events that we have yet to see. We have been yet to see them for a long time. We first began talking about these events really towards the end of last summer, early fall. We've seen preparations, narrative space preparation, activities from what we would call black hat actors, both under duress and compelled by deals and original, that are moving us towards this precipice moment where we see some sort of large scale event or scare events. We've been talking about this for a while. Q tells us multiple times that a blackout is coming, that a blackout is necessary, that KillNet will have at least some part in all of that. And recently KillNet, along with two other hacker groups tied back to really an underground hacking alliance around the world, have been working in recent days to affect financial attacks in the Western world. We know that Q tells us a scare event is coming, that it's necessary, that the sum of all fears is a good reference point, along with the hunt for Red October, Clear and Present Danger, Godfather 3, things of this ilk. So it should come as no surprise then that we are moving into what appears to be a very hot summer. We have the launch of the Sound of Freedom worldwide on July the 4th, 2023, which will be a mortal blow, a time bomb, a Moab, a daisy cutter, if you will, dropped in the middle of the online information warfare space. It will fundamentally shift the narrative of understanding for a great many individuals out there that are sort of not on board with different positions being taken by political factions. And I think we could call MAGA, in addition to being a revolutionary movement and a we the people catalyzation, it is based in some political faction and some principled ideology, which I do think is important, but which some of these sleepers that we need to get across the finish line will simply not participate with until they have a clearer, more broad and thorough understanding of how the dynamics are really playing out here in the world. Just recently, we had a video surface online. I believe it was Dr. Jason Dean, who put out that there is an imminent cyber attack coming that will be powerful enough to shut down society in the Western world. And it will happen likely worldwide, but certainly within the United States of America. I'd like to commend Dr. Jason. I've never met the man, but after seeing the video and at first being a bit skeptical, I went online to do the research myself and found myself very compelled that he was in fact correct. I'm going to share with you a number of headlines, every single one of these taken within the last 7 days. Let me get past these ads that pop up on the screen. Multinational accounting firm PricewaterhouseCoopers and Ernst & Young are among an ever-growing list of victims linked to a cybersecurity incident that originated with data transfer service MoveIt. A supply chain cyber attack launched by MoveIt by ransomware gang Clop has resulted in a series of data breaches for a large number of high-profile brands, including the Health Service of Ireland and payroll service provider Zealous. Let me see here. The breach has also led to further breaches of clients, which include British Broadcasting Company and British Airways. Published on June the 21st, 24 hours ago, Gen Digital, the parent company of the security companies, is the latest victim. Oh, the parent company of Avast and Norton. I apologize. Gen Digital, the parent company of Avast and Norton, is the latest victim in a rash of clop attacks on the bug in the Move It transfer software, leading to employee data being revealed. Ransomware attacks pose communication. This also 24 hours ago, pose communications dilemmas for local governments. Experts say it is crucial that local governments communicate with the public following a ransomware attack, but must walk a fine line between sharing too little and too much information. Taken from bleepingcomputer.com, hackers warned University of Manchester students of imminent data leak. Clop ransomware is hitting schools, businesses, and government agencies. Here's what you should know. This just 6 days ago on Communist News Network. A growing number of businesses, universities, and agencies have been targeted in a global cyber attack. Of course, they're blaming it on Russian cyber criminals, but we know who's really responsible, right? This is a this is a white hat alliance forcing the deep state's hand. Ransomware group breached federal agencies in cyber attack. This is taken an article from the New York Times. When was the article published? June the 15th, 2023, 7 days ago today. Iowa's largest school district confirms ransomware attack. Australian government says its data was stolen in law firm ransomware attack. An Illinois hospital attributed its permanent closure to a ransomware attack. Now, again, these within the last 6 to 7 days. Illinois hospital first to shut down completely after ransomware attack. A ransomware attack hit SMP Health in 2021. The attack halted the hospital's ability to submit claims to insurers, sending it into a financial spiral. Now, this article was written just a few days ago. You may have noticed that for-profit healthcare in the U.S. is already a hot mess. Giant mismanaged healthcare conglomerates have long pushed and underfunded staffers to the brinks while routinely underinvesting in necessary technical upgrades. It's getting consistently worse. Yada-da-da-da. All right, so the ransomware attack on this hospital actually occurred in 2021, but we have the article resurfacing in 2023. So I apologize. Disregard that one, except to establish context. June 16, 2023, anatomy of a Lockbit ransomware attack. The Varonis forensics team recently investigated and remediated a ransomware event that resulted in large-scale encryption and exfiltration across multiple file servers. Massive ransomware attack has spread to 74 countries, locked doctors out of their patient records in the UK, and this is taken from a New Zealand newspaper. The National Health Service of the United Kingdom says 16 of its organizations were attacked with ransomware, locking doctors. I apologize. This article is old. I do not know why it has been shared again, but I apologize. That is old. That is a 6-year-old article. Let me go through here and make sure that the date on this next one is actually accurate. Doesn't have a date on it. So we'll put a pin in this one. The article titled here from ABC 13 Eyewitness News, Houston Rockets targeted in ransomware attack, but the article has no date. And then taken from this website, conbriefing.com with a K, conbriefing. June 2023, cyber events worldwide. Here's our list. DDoS attack on a bank in Luxembourg, June 19th. Cyber attack on a French municipality government agency, June 18th. Cyber attack on June 16th on the website of a canton in Switzerland. On June the 16th, cyber attack on an IT service provider for publishing companies in Germany. June the 16th, German media company also affected by a cyber attack. June the 16th, book publishers in Germany affected by cyber attack. Traces of spyware on phones of Belgian judges and police officers, June 2023. June 15, 2023, DDoS attack on the website of a tourism agency in Switzerland. Also on June 15th, cyber attack on a research center in Germany, in Berlin. June the 14th, DDoS attack on the website of a canton in Switzerland. June the 14th, cyber attack on a German municipal government agency. June the 13th, DDoS attack on business software systems in Switzerland. June the 13th, DDoS attacks on several Icelandic websites. Also on June the 13th, DDoS attack on the website of a shipping port in the Netherlands. June the 12th, decentralized finance protocol hacked. Approximately 770,000 euro were stolen. June the 12th, DDoS attack on federal administration government in Switzerland. Also on June the 12th, attack on a railway company. Let me see here. Cyber attack on a medical review service in Germany, June 2023. Spanish students hack accounts of their school. Cyber attacks on a Texas university, June 11th. Cyber attack on an investment company in Australia. DDoS attack on the website of a port in the Netherlands. Cyber attack on a payment provider in New Zealand. Cyber attack on a U.S. alloy manufacturer, June the 10th. This is just June. All of this is just in June. Cyber attack on a telecom provider in Russia. Cyber attack on the University of Applied Sciences, on a University of Applied Sciences in Germany. Cyber attack on a city government in Arkansas. Cyber attack on the Securities Commission of Argentina. DDoS attack on the website of the Swiss Parliament. Cyber attack on a French university. Cyber attack on a large retail chain in Italy. Folks, we could go on. This webpage is incredibly long. We are living through what is perhaps the most underreported event that has happened along this journey to date. There is a massive worldwide cyber infiltration operation that is occurring. Based on the research that I've put out, not just in those headlines, or that I've gone through, not just in those headlines, but many other things that I've been reading along the way, and how it would tie into how we're progressing in events. It is my assessment, and again, this comes from my opinion, based on research, that we are witnessing go time for an extraordinary White Hat Alliance infiltration and destabilization operation. And we may see the very scare events that we've been talking about along this journey come out into the forefront and into play as the deep state's only viable response to prevent them from being completely found out by this world alliance. Now, we know on this particular program, we've talked at different points along the way, that the World Alliance has had control of key areas of the narrative and certainly of the initiative space for quite a long time now. One of the things we have not fully discussed, however, is this concept of getting every single last one of them all of the way down to the city, state, and local level. We know that that must happen because justice cannot be properly dispensed and exacted around the world, and it cannot properly affect every man, woman, and child currently living in the world right now unless we go all of the way to those deep penetrative levels. Did you hear how many of those attacks deal with business agencies, telecom, IT systems, cybersecurity, infrastructure, city government, municipalities? Okay, we're talking about getting right down into those same communities. We're talking about getting information from who works where, who knew what. And the only way to stop a rolling cascade of highly successful cyber infiltration operations is to cut the switch and turn off the access portal, which is available through the internet and through the digital data space, the matrix that we all live in, where we send and receive data through frequency in the air, right? Or between 2 points, we could say in the air, but that's just for physical, visualization of this process. If the only way to turn off the capability to get into those areas is to kill the sustaining force that allows the frequency and data transfer to occur. Now, all of that being said, we talked on 53rd file just recently about all of the U.S. military activity domestically in the homeland, including the deployment of missile defense systems along coastal areas, National Guard, very present on the streets in several key cities. We know that Q references a text called The Sum of All Fears, which references a nuclear style false flag event or a nuclear contention, a precipice moment, right? Happening in different areas of the United States, primarily in cities. I believe it's at sporting events. So we know that while things may not play out exactly by that particular context, right? The spirit of, the flavor of, the taste of that sort of a situation is likely coming into play because we've had the spirit and the taste of movies like The Godfather 3 and Red October into play so far as well in many different ways. So it's interesting then that we should have an audio recording emerge from South Africa, of all places, just a few days ago, discussing how a large banking conglomerate in that area of the world had advised personnel that the managers of said conglomerate, were advised by the upper chain to prepare for some sort of limited blackout situation within that country and within other countries. At the same time that is occurring, we have all of these headlines coming into play, and that was just a sample. I could have pulled up 2 dozen more, 3 dozen more headlines to share with you because I found them in my research earlier. It really is everywhere online, but no one is talking about it publicly. No one is bringing this risk to the forefront. We've had the narrative seeded and prepped. We've had the WEF in January announcing that a cyber pandemic would be the next major event to affect mankind and to shut everything down. And then we have witnessed organizations like Apple, like Microsoft, having cyber issues over the last 3 to 5 months or so. Microsoft just recently announcing that its infrastructural systems, its Windows operating system that's pretty much present on every publicly available device in the United States of America and in most of the Western world, discussing how, and they were of course blaming China, how a cyber attack or a cyber attack effort had rendered some of those systems inoperable and posed a threat to U.S. critical national infrastructure. Remember that the United States electric grid is only controlled in 3 separate spots, and it would be very easy to sort of cascade in a wave, a very hardcore malevolent attack, right, designed to burn out and fry out the core ability of the programs to do the electronic programs to do the things that they need to do, or maybe even fry the hardware in the process. And all of a sudden we would be without power. We live in a time where we've been walking sort of this razor's edge of truth, knowing that intense events had to come. We're tired of the normies who won't pay attention. We're tired of everyone who thinks that just because they can spend money out of their wallet, that everything is totally fine. We're tired of those individuals that because their routine has not been interrupted, has not been thrown off of the rails, so to speak, that somehow it doesn't affect them. We are all in this together as one, we the people, but it is also okay to acknowledge that the process of the awakening and being ahead of your fellow man in some regards can be very exhausting and even agitating and cause some contention at points along the way. You love them, but man, they're so stubborn-headed and ox-headed, right? You wish them well, you want to protect them, but they won't even listen to reason. And so as we go through this process, Q has told us right from the get-go that massive world-changing events were going to occur that would shock the consciousness of humanity. Not a direct quote, that's just a summary of the overall attitude of different things that have been discussed, right? And so things from the scare event to it will be biblical to this is bigger than you can imagine. This is not about another 4-year election. All of these discussions that Q brings to the forefront, we're really talking about reshaping the direction of mankind forever. Certainly in the next 500 to 1,000 years, but I think at the end of the day, what we learn as we go through this process, we will be forever grateful to ourselves and one another for helping to bring humanity across the finish line. But at the end of the day, it will take these events, these sorts of unpleasantries, if we will, right, to get all of us across that line, to get everyone into the understanding of what has really happened to the world, of who their government really is, right down to the local level. right? It's going to be difficult for individuals out there who are maybe fast asleep and ardent supporters of their local county clerk or their local real estate association, or they're a main donor to the city commission, or they have a business that does a lot of revenue for a local city and things like that. And so I'm in this instance, I'm saying that patriots, even at the community level, who are participating to some extent, but not so much in the driver's seat, but to some extent in the local government scene and the controlling of their own municipality, they're going to be very surprised at how deep the level of corruption really goes. Many of those local and state positions that are so infiltrated and have such clout and affect so much direct policy and ordinance enforcement, not to be confused with the enforcement of laws, within these different regions of the United States and around the world, owe money to one of these hegemonistic entities that does not care about the good of mankind. The amount of individuals, for example, that are owned by the Chinese Communist Party and who have been subsequently threatened, blackmailed, and bribed and shoehorned deeper and deeper into their own sins by those same parties and others, and essentially playing Major League Poker with a minor league experience, right? Which is the experience of a lot of young and new, we'll call them elected officials at all levels in the United States of America. Those individuals will provide, I think, a catalyst for awakening for the communities to say, hey, you are not simply extolled away from the whole. You are part of the greater whole, even though you are also supposed to exercise your own sovereignty in your community areas. And I say that for all communities everywhere. It is also worth highlighting that not everyone at the local, state, and federal levels are compromised. We have a blended system of infiltration that has happened over a very long time, but those forces of darkness have long overtaken the 50% balance mark. And so we have been teetering more and more and more on falling away and giving way to that locus of control. And if it weren't for the Great Awakening and everything we're experiencing now, I think we would have had a very dark and unpleasant future for most of humanity to look forward to as a result of the weakness of those local, local municipality, city state, and territory, provincial-based systems. It's worth highlighting moving forward. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time discussing China because that will come in another file here very, very soon. But the Chinese are beginning active preparation publicly for the movement into Taiwan. And we're seeing those occurrences happening now and being reported by different correspondent papers and publications, both alternate and even some mainstream around the rest of the world. It's heavily censored in the United States of America, but those processes are actively taking place right now. Additionally, China is preparing to dump its ownership in U.S. Treasury bonds, which accounts for most of the U.S. national debt. When that occurs, the United States debt-based hyperinflationary scenario is likely to kick off to a great degree, because that would be essentially the largest creditor saying, well, okay, you're not good anymore, so I'm just going to give up on ever getting paid back, which that's going to destroy the credibility of the dollar more than it already has been around the rest of the world. All of these events kicking off right around the same time is amazing to me. And it's amazing that we are also seeing this happen on the anniversary today, or we're talking about much of this happening on the anniversary of Operation Barbarossa of 1941. That was an incredible land-based invasion that fundamentally changed the powers of control in the world and the balance of power forever. It really altered the direction of the earth, right? And so what's amazing to me then is that just today we had President 45 put out a video. All right, so we're going to decode this a couple of different ways here. Let me go back and make sure that I'm on the right spot. President 45's video was absolutely incredible and very worth following here. Give me just a moment. I'm going to dissect this a little bit. All right, so there's a couple of different versions of the video, the little short video blurb coming off of Agenda 47 that is titled "Protecting Americans by Taking on Big Pharma and Ending Global Freeloading." So the first version of this video that was released online to Rumble had a timestamp of 2 minutes and 29 seconds within the video, and it was President Trump talking about the Biden weakness on pharma, how the United States is going to set things free and fair and just with pharmaceuticals and the rest of the world. But he also talked about, how things affect children. He talked in that particular video about, the fairness of pricing and how the United States has been taken advantage of, and really the American people is what it boils down to, have been taken advantage of by the pharma cartel. And so what I found fascinating with this was just the other day, I forget how many days ago now, but President Trump put out a truth on TruthSocial that said the seal has been broken, and then began discussing this exact same sort of content in the Bedminster, New Jersey speech post arraignment, again discussing about the seal being broken and the Biden crime family and things like this. So we know that Big Pharma owns them all. Big Pharma primarily pays for the entire elected deep state class, right? Big Pharma is owned by the controllers, the depopulationists, the big Luciferians at the very top. Much of Big Pharma comes out of Ukraine, including nearly all of the major R&D research that goes on for new pharmaceutical drugs coming out of Kiev and different areas in the Ukrainian countryside. Just recently, the Russians uncovered some of that in their operations, dealing with trafficked organs, trafficked human specimens, different bodily substances that were being transported to biological laboratories for reverse engineering and development, things of this nature. Very sick criminality. So I thought was fascinating as it was 2 minutes and 29 seconds. So I came over here to drop 229, November the 25th of 2017. And what is absolutely incredible here, all right, is that this is very clearly a confirmation stringer and a list of commands. They look to be algorithmic, computerized in nature. And Q says not all posts are meant for Anons. That's something that is stated at least one other time in the drops, that there are individuals that track these threads and follow these threads that are not, we can't really say on the civilian side because we really don't know, but they're not for your average information seeker. They're not for a we the people Anon that's out there doing digging, right? And so this particular drop reads, Freedom version 5, yes, 27.1, Freedom version 198, version 811, version ZJ9, version Caser, version Caser, Freedom V, stand, Freedom mod, Freedom W1 stand, W2 stand, version 4 stand, version SHA, yes, 27.1, US, yes. So these are, and then we have confirmation go. So these are computer entries, computer commands that are being inputted here. And I find this fascinating that this, again, happening on drop 229. What is today? Today is 622. So if we mirror the 9 into a 6, 2s don't mirror into any other number, so they stay the same. So 226. And if we were to mirror that again, we would have the 622. We are literally corresponding to something major moving here. We know that this, or something major happening, I should say, there's some sort of movement at play in the digital space here. We know that we have, again, all of the discussion that we had a moment ago about those different cyber attacks and the cyber threat that exists around the world. That is a massive, massive reality that is not being covered, but is absolutely true. And I believe that we actually have a corresponding or a dual operation going on, right? We have the infiltration by our side, coming out and really forcing the hand of the bad actors to do the one thing that they don't want to do, which is to pull the switch. Now, here's where this gets really interesting, though. When I searched, or excuse me, when I came over to the president's TruthSocial, because again, that video was not taken directly from the president's TruthSocial and at the 2 minute and 29 second mark. That was taken off of Rumble. The president actually posted this same video on his TruthSocial, but had added 5 seconds to the timestamp. So we had 2 minutes and 34 seconds on the president's TruthSocial, posted at 3:47. Here we go. Posted at 3:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's the exact same video. So we have a difference of 5 seconds. I didn't find anything interesting with the 234 as it pertained to timestamp or drop correspondence. I mirrored it. I went a couple of different ways at it. But what I will say is that when I plugged in -5 and put it in brackets, so we're having a difference of 5, right? Post 626, there's only one post, only one Q drop that has -5 in brackets. Post 626, January the 27th of 2018. And here's where it gets really interesting. At 1, 2, 3, 4 and 38 seconds p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So there's our 2, 3, 4, right? Found there again. Chatter exploding. Change of narrative required. -4, -5. So there's our 45. Public to awaken. Mass start. Sleeping pill reject. Operation Mockingbird failure. Fake greater than real. Blind greater than 2020. Kill chain. Where we go one, we go all. Kill chain, of course, being a known tactic for net shutdown and massive cyber attack, right? So this truth at 3:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, corresponding, if we take that -5 difference between that other video and bring it to 626, yes, that's fascinating, right? And again, with the 2, 3, 4 in the Q drop. But here's where it gets really interesting. If you put in the timestamp 3:47, yes, excuse me, 3:47, let's come over here. Drop 777 comes up February the 5th, 2018, 3:47 and 34, which is 17 times 2. Why is big pharma essential? Expand your thinking past cures. Think Google and the new Pixel phone. Think Apple versus Samsung. Why was BlackBerry destroyed? We can guide, but you must organically uncover the truth. They are watching. Archive everything offline. Now that's fascinating. Archive everything offline, and we're talking about big pharma, big tech, their collusion, the 5G depopulation, vaccine zombie activation agenda, right? We're talking about how biometrics entered into the big tech scene, how that is a key integral part of transhumanism, their fourth industrial revolution that these psychopaths had planned for mankind. And just today, POTUS, on the anniversary of Operation Barbarossa and the same day that the Brunson case went to conference in the Supreme Court for discussion, we have POTUS releasing a video discussing his direct intent to take on Big Pharma, this being less than 2 weeks after we've had a very dramatic optical arraignment operation occur, a very, I think, well-founded and I wouldn't call it certain because nothing's certain, but a very rock solid decode just recently. We can reference that on file 53 regarding the storm being upon us. Additionally, General Michael Flynn on Twitter just recently tweeting out the storm is here. We're entering an incredible time, my Patriot friends. This is an amazing time to be alive. And we have President Trump telling us that there is something dramatic occurring, that a cyber event is real. This is not fodder. This is absolutely real, right? And one of the things that's absolutely amazing to me in terms of the cyber environment are two things. So if we go over to FEMA and we go into their Emergency Management Institute, in other words, how to be a FEMA person, right? FEMA training. The Emergency Management Institute learning system will roll out late summer 2023. EMI will launch the new learning management system in late summer 2023 in order to implement new enhancements necessary to support best student experience. To ensure a smooth transition, quote, there will be an outage period. Exact dates have not been determined, and plenty of notice will be given. Give me just a moment here. And then this. I'm going to read you part of an article posted in April of 2021. While the world was distracted with President Trump leaving office on January 20th, an obscure Florida company discreetly announced to the world's computer networks a startling development. It was now managing a huge and unused swath of the internet that for several decades was owned by the U.S. military. The company, Global Resource Systems, LLC, kept adding to its zone of control, and soon it had claimed 56 million IP addresses owned by the Pentagon. 3 months later, the total was 175 million. That's almost 6% of a coveted traditional section of internet real estate called IP version 4, where such large chunks are worth billions on the open market. The entities controlling the largest swaths of the internet generally are telecommunications giants whose names are familiar, such as AT&T, Telecom, Verizon, etc. But now at the top of the list was Global Resource Systems, a company founded only in September of 2020 that has no publicly reported federal contracts and no public-facing website. As listed in records, the company's address is in Florida outside Fort Lauderdale and is a shared workspace in an office building that doesn't show GRS on its lobby directory. A receptionist at the shared workspace said Friday that she could provide no information about this company and asked the reporter to leave. They did not respond to comment requests. The only announcement of GRS's management of Pentagon IP addresses happened in the obscure world of Border Gateway Patrol, the messaging system that tells internet companies how to route traffic across the world. There, messages began to arrive telling network administrators that IP addresses assigned to the Pentagon but long dormant were now able to accept traffic, but that traffic should be routed to Global Resource Systems. Network administrators began speculating about perhaps the most dramatic shift in IP addresses since BGP was introduced in the late 1980s. Doug Mattery, director of internet analysis for Kentech, a network monitoring company, said they are now announcing more address space than anything ever in the history of the internet. He published a blog post on the mystery this past Saturday. Theories are many. Did someone at the Defense Department sell off part of the military's vast collection of sought-after IP addresses? Had the Pentagon finally acted on demands to unload billions of dollars worth of IP that the military has been sitting on unused for decades? The change is the handiwork of an elite Pentagon unit known as the Defense Digital Service, which reports directly to the Secretary. The DDS bills itself as a SWAT team of nerds tasked with solving emergency problems for the department and conducting experimental work to make technological leaps for the military. Created only in 2015, the DDS operates a Silicon Valley-like office within the Pentagon. It carries out a range of special projects, from developing biometrics to helping service members identify friendly and enemy forces to ensuring encryption of emails Pentagon staff are exchanging. The specifics of what the effort is trying to achieve remain unclear. The Defense Department declined to answer a number of questions about this project, and Pentagon officials declined to say why Goldstein's unit, the DDS, was using a little-known Florida company to carry out the pilot effort rather than have the Defense Department itself announce that. What is clear, however, is that GRS in Florida directed a fire hose of internet traffic toward the Defense Department addresses. Mattery said his monitoring showed the broad movements of internet traffic began immediately after these IP addresses were announced on January 20th, 2021. Mattery said such large amounts of data could provide several benefits for those in a position to collect and analyze it for threat intelligence. The data may provide information about how malicious actors operate online and could reveal exploitable weaknesses in computer systems, around the world. In addition, several Chinese companies use network numbering systems that resemble military IP addresses in the U.S. in their internal systems. By announcing the address space through GRS, it could cause some of that information from China to be covertly routed to systems controlled by the U.S. military. If you have a very large amount of traffic and someone knows how to go through it, you're going to find stuff, said Mattery. Russell Gamir, a spokesman for the Defense Department, confirmed in a statement to the Washington Post that the Pentagon still owns the IP address space and hadn't sold it. Dormant IP addresses can be hijacked and used for nefarious purposes, and the pilot program through the DDS could allow the Defense Department to uncover if subversive activities were taking place using its addresses. There is more to that article. It's taken from the Seattle Times. You are witnessing the build out, the public unveiling, the coming togetherness of everything that you have researched and looked for many years. You are witnessing the exposure on mass scale. You are witnessing the D-class effort accelerating to an almost absurd point. You witnessed John Durham come out in the House of Representatives and state publicly before a congressional inquiry that the entire Steele dossier, which was the basis for the implementation of the FISA court search warrants, which is one of the secret deep state entities in the United States that controls everything from the intelligence community side, was entirely fake and primarily funded by Hillary Clinton and individuals connected to the Clinton campaign. You also heard Mr. Durham confirm on record under oath before the inquiry, the congressional inquiry, that President Obama, as well as senior other members of the U.S. federal government, including intelligence agencies and law enforcement, were briefed on the existence of a plan to frame an incoming presidential candidate for the United States of America for treason. You are witnessing J.P. Morgan attempting to hide its association with Epstein. You are witnessing desperation in the narrative space, the likes of which we've never seen. You're witnessing meltdowns of Kabbalist assets on television. You're witnessing the cratering of the information network and the legacy control apparatus that has always existed around the world. You're witnessing the dissolution, slowly but assuredly, of NATO's ability to control, threat, and intimidate. You're witnessing the death of the US dollar in its current form and the transformative process to a new currency and a new way of life in a fair and just economic system of trade. You're witnessing the rollout of new guidelines and new laws. You're witnessing the rollout of certain protections and certain punishments that should really have always been there, and we shouldn't have to outline these things, but now that we have, they are there for us and for our posterity. You hear me say it all the time. This is the most amazing time to be alive. And with that, everyone, if we lose communications, if we enter into a blackout period, if that scare event and that storm is truly upon us, as though we are beginning to see that it might be, understand that Patriots are in control. Don't buy into any narrative space. Don't buy into the fomenting of mass panic. Don't buy into fear-based reactivity. You are better than that. We are all better than that. Understand that it is important to be prepared as we go through difficult events, no matter what, that it is always a good idea to have common sense essentials on hand, that it is always a good idea to have some amount of preparation into the survivables, food, water, things of that nature, possibly fuel if you're able to store it. It is always a good idea to have some extra on hand. It is also a good idea, if the means is available to you, to have a little bit of cash or some sort of commodity-based value item, even if it's booze, on hand in case of market bartering and things like that for a short period of time. We discussed back several files ago that if we enter into a period where there is a total blackout, it is unlikely that such a period would continue beyond 14 to 21 days, simply because of the ability to maintain order, safety, and security at a societal level. The United States military is charged with protecting the Constitution and the Republic of the United States, and the Republic is essentially its peoples. Without its peoples, we have no republic. And so, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls out there all over the world, listening everywhere, I hope you are just as excited as I am to see what is really happening in the world. To close off everything, I do want to highlight, come over here really quick if I can get to it, that Q post, I believe it was 229 that we were just discussing a moment ago, the confirmation stringer, go through here, 229, what appeared to be electronic commands issued, right? At the very end of that post, it has 47, like Agenda 47. I'm looking at the timestamp at the top of the Q drop 229. We have 47 in the timestamp. And the timestamp in totality is 1:30 and 47 seconds. So if we were to remove the 0, we would have 3:47, just like the post from President Trump today. I think this is an incredible time. Hug your kids, hug your family. It's important to have some sort of an action plan in place if things do, go down and communications are lost. Get with family and formulate, even if it has to be just a rough plan of where everyone's going to be and the time frames that you're going to try and make it. Give yourself a couple of hours. Be aware that, if you're doing things like traveling and things like that, having your head on a swivel is even that much more important. The potential of being caught out always remains as we go through life and we live and we walk and we sort and we sift and we do the things that we have to do, right? Not allowing fear to control us. We're not going to stay at home, cowering on the couch under the blanket. That's not how we are. But be smart and enjoy the ride. I think we're almost there, Patriots. And at the end of the day, every single one of you out there has earned it. Enjoy the process. Be there for your sleepers. Love them, teach them, guide them. I'll be back with each of you again soon. This is SGAnon. Thanks. Bye-bye.